And it's kind of telling where people are at, because and this could even be seen as a controversial dynamic. And after this, I'll get to some other callers. But all of the seemingly well-to-do individuals on the street, not super rich people by any stretch of the imagination, but, upper middle class, seem to be the least receptive. People who, by the way they dress, the items that they may be carrying, etc., have money put away. They have a job, obviously, where they have a lot of savings. They have a lifestyle that is very comfortable. They're not needing for anything, certainly not for physical things or for money. They're certainly needy in the spirit, but that's another issue. These people are the least receptive to the message. They think they're okay because they have some money. They think that's the only determining factor for whether you're okay, quote unquote, in the world or not. And you'll hear this phrase. You'll hear the phrase, "No, that's okay. I'm okay. No, I'm not interested in that. I'm okay." They'll actually say the phrase, "I'm okay." And this is like almost an archetypal phrase that is coming out of their mouth, out of the subconscious, that the ego has them believing that they're okay. They don't even understand they're in a war. They don't even understand they're not okay. They're destroyed. They're actively being destroyed at all times and places. Their spirit is devastated. Their spirit is almost completely destroyed. And yet they are using this phrase, "I'm okay." I talked about this with some other people, including Barb, who has said, no, that's what they all continue to say. "Oh, I'm okay." I don't need to know anything you could possibly have to show me. There's no information you could possibly put in my hands that I need to know. Where I'm at, I have it all figured out. I know what the world is. I'm in a good place because I'm covered as far as my physical needs go right in this particular moment, and I'm okay. And I think that is the most arrogant, ignorant, just diseased thing that could pour out of a person's mouth who is a complete know-nothing, a know-nothing. Again, these are the people who I say have negative knowledge. And believe me, if for a couple of them that do give you the 2 seconds that they're willing to grant to have a very brief interchange or dialogue with, you know that they know nothing. Because they have no idea what the Federal Reserve is. They don't know what fractional reserve banking is. They have no idea about all of the machinations that went into creating this financial crisis that is plaguing this country and will continue to plague it. And they think because they're in a position right now where they have a little bit of cash, that somehow they're quote unquote okay. And all I have to say to these people, if this information probably won't reach their ears, but if it ever does, trust me, you're not okay. You're in a very bad way. Whether you understand it or see it or not right now, you are most definitely not okay. And again, the dynamic that you see always has to do with the people who seemingly are comfortable in the job or money-making role that they play in life. They have a cush job, and therefore nothing else is of any import whatsoever. Their information is meaningless. Knowledge is meaningless to these people. And one of the things you see when you engage them is a smirk on their face. There's this smug smirk, as if to say, what could you possibly have to tell me? What could I possibly be able to gain from hearing one word that comes out of your mouth or one thing on a slip of paper that you have to hand to me? Possibly. This arrogance and smugness is ultimately what's going to be these people's downfall. They're not going to transcend the cycle. They're not going to transcend the law, lowercase l, let alone upper. No one's going to, there is no such thing as transcending the uppercase L law. But this lower form of law, this ebb, this seemingly cyclical flow that is an ebb and flow of tendencies throughout time, they're going to get crushed by that wave, crushed. And they've done no preparation mentally, psychologically, spiritually, definitely, obviously not physically, for the eventuality of this wave that's coming to run them over like a tsunami. And you could say, hey, that's really harsh talk. Yes, it is. Because I can't even imagine how someone this ignorant and poor in knowledge and poor in spirit can be so smug. And you just see it over and over and over and over again. Like, what? I don't even know what that is. What is this thing? This thing that calls itself a human being, that you would like try to make a degradation of someone else's will and effort, that you're not doing anything. You're sitting on your ass watching television, not getting involved in anything to make the world a better place, totally self-absorbed, totally in your own head. And you would dare to scoff at the efforts of someone else to bring solid, reliable information to other people, whether you agree with the cause or not. I wouldn't go and scoff at someone else's political cause. You know, I'm not scoffing at the people who go and march against cancer in these anti-cancer walks, these March for the Cure walks. Their intentions are good. They just don't understand that cures for cancer are already in existence. They've been with us for 100 years and are actively being suppressed. You know, that this whole medical paradigm, this model that we have of what real science and medicine is never going to give us a cure for cancer because it's only addressing symptoms and not underlying causes. And they're just misguided. They're well-intentioned but misguided. But these people are a whole nother animal. And I use the word deliberately. They're a whole nother animal. They're not even a human being. They're like an animal that is so obsessed with its own self and is so obsessed with only what it can get out of something. My own selfish interests, you know, my own little worldly desires, that they actually have a smug laugh. You know, this smug smile, you see it over and over and over again, and not just toward me, but just toward everyone who's on the march. You see someone, I'll watch someone try to put a flyer in someone else's hand, say, here you go, sir, here you go, ma'am. Would you like some information on, you know, why we're marching and what the Federal Reserve is doing to the financial situation of the American people? And they just not only won't take it, won't even bother to even engage you with speech, but they'll just have this smug smile like, oh, God, you actually think that information is important? You actually believe that there's something that you could give me that I don't know about how life works? And I just find it totally disgraceful. And in a lot of ways, it's like you almost are rooting for the negative outcome, so the people like that just get smacked by the Mack truck right in the face. You know, just so they never even see the blindsiding coming and experience the deepest aspect of suffering that could possibly be experienced, because their whole world's going to be toppled on top of its head, and they saw none of it coming. And they're going to be in total psychological, in a psychological sewer, worse than they are now, because they thought that they were okay and insisted that they were okay. And, you know, I have to try to fight with myself, with the lower aspect of myself, to say, no, we don't want to see that outcome. We want to continue to try to press forward and bring the effort forward to try to truly educate these people and get them out of their mind control stupor. But it's very difficult when you see people with that kind of an attitude, literally not only not wanting help, but scoffing at people who are trying to help them. It's amazing that people are that degraded. I mean, these are literally troll, goblin creatures. They're not even, like I said, they have much, 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 much work to do to get back to being a base human being, getting back to base consciousness. They're in total demonic consciousness. They're in a place that's so low, there's nothing lower than it beyond death. beyond physical, non-existence of, the animated body to have an experience within consciousness. Just go back to the void. That's about the lowest layer of consciousness in the physical world that you can get, is to think you have it so figured out that no one could possibly put any information forward that you could gain or benefit from in your understanding. And that's the worst place you could possibly be at. And I saw the biggest number of those individuals yesterday because of the timing of this event, right after Black Friday, this sales craze. And to continue this anecdote before we go back to the phones, I just want to say that there was one other encounter that I had. Well, two other, actually. In front of the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, we handed out many flyers about the Federal Reserve. And there, more people were receptive. But even there, you had people with the same attitude. You're standing in line to see one of the symbols of the American revolutionary spirit, one of the symbols of the founding of this country, which attempted to enshrine sovereignty in the hearts and minds of the people and combat and fight against tyranny and be on eternal vigilance against it. And you don't even have the dignity to say, when an activist is coming up to you saying, these people are destroying America and you need to know about it, and the mainstream media is not going to tell you about this, that people standing in line to go into and see a physical artifact, okay, the Liberty Bell, thinking that somehow they're participating in freedom, by just going and visiting in person a physical object from that time period. Now, no disrespect against the whole concept of the Liberty Bell. Fine, whoever wants to go and see it and, get a glimpse into, past American history, I have no problem with that. But I'm saying the people in line, many of them did engage in taking the information from our hands, but many had this same mocking or scoffing attitude. And a lot of them, you could tell, have this attitude of, these people are just troublemakers. They're just malcontents. They think they have it so bad. Why don't you go live somewhere else? I'm not saying there aren't worse places than America. Of course there are. But there's no good places in the world. The whole planet is a prison, essentially. The whole planet doesn't understand sovereignty. The whole planet doesn't understand truth. The whole planet has no conceptualization of what real freedom is. It doesn't matter where you go. You're just going to a worse place within the global tyranny. The whole place is global tyranny. So this whole attitude of America, love it or leave it, people can take that attitude and cram it up their ass sideways as far as I'm concerned. And I'll say it that harsh, okay? Because I'm not going to leave this place. I'm in here for the long haul, whether it comes to a physical revolution or not. I'm going to continue to wage the revolution in spirit and in mind. And if it comes to a physical revolution, I'm still not going anywhere. I'll be here, and I'll be fighting on the side of truth and freedom. So, don't tell me where I need to leave, because this place is where I was born. It's my birthright, and it's where the people who founded this country fought and defended human freedom with blood. So, again, anybody that has that attitude about real patriots, people who are really trying to free the minds and hearts of the people in this totally brainwashed, mind-controlled country, you know what you could do with that attitude. Okay? So, that's all I have to say about people like that. One other quick thing I want to bring up is in front of the Constitution Center. Okay, now just think about this for a minute. In front of the building that represents having a, land that is about we the people, there was an entire family with tons of packages seated on the steps of the Constitution Center waiting for a tourist trolley. And maybe they weren't from the United States. I don't even know. Okay, but I went up to him, me and another activist, and attempted to hand them a flyer. And they said, well, what's this? Barb said, commented that it was as if you tried to hand them a recipe for cooking babies. as comical as that sounds, and the ridiculousness of the notion it brings to the mind, it was like that was the physical look on their face, just taking out a single slip of paper and attempting to put some information into their hand. It was like you had, attempted them to look at the grossest atrocity that has ever been committed by humanity. Like this look came over their face like, ugh, like you're trying to hand me something with words on it? And they're like, what's this about? The father, the mother, and the children, all with this, how dare you, stranger, approach us? You don't speak to us on the street. We're busy about our shopping and tourism or whatever. How dare you attempt to hand us a piece of information? And I said, well, this is a march to raise awareness of what the Federal Reserve System is doing that's completely immoral and basically making the American people destitute with a complete Ponzi scheme, which is what their fractional reserve banking system is. We find that's immoral. We're speaking out against it. We're trying to raise awareness of what they do, and here's some information about it. And I said, and this is also a rally to end the illegal wars of aggression that are made possible by the funding of the Federal Reserve System, that makes all these illegal wars, offshore wars of aggression that are preemptive, possible, and able to continue for so long. And they said, we have better things to do with our time than to waste our time with junk like this. Literally, that's exactly the response. We have better things to do with our time than to waste our time with junk like this. And I said, junk like this, like what's really going on in the world, you'd rather remain ignorant about it and do nothing about it. And you're sitting on the steps of the Constitution building in Philadelphia. I said, enjoy your slavery. You can do nothing for someone in that state of consciousness. They are a golem. They have no consciousness. They're not really a human being. They're an animal in human form, calling themselves a human being. But they are the dead. The dark occultists call these people the dead for a reason. They are the dead. Someone like that is beyond help. And I'm not trying to say get discouraged and stop the effort. But someone like that ultimately needs to be drowned by the chorus of truth that we need to raise. We need to have so many people speaking the truth that it is impossible to ignore, and that they are uncomfortable in their bubble of ignorance. We have to make it uncomfortable. We have to make it more uncomfortable for people to remain ignorant than to go to the truth, regardless of how uncomfortable that is. That's how many people need to see. People disagree with this approach, that they think no pressure is involved. Let me tell you something. To make a diamond, pressure is needed. We need pressure applied to create something that is good. It's not going to happen without willful effort and pressure. People say the truth doesn't need to be defended. It doesn't need to be defended, but it does need to be spread. It does need to be spoken into existence. And in doing that, you are creating a pressurized effect that eventually it's like walls closing in and no one can escape it. Unfortunately, that dynamic is turned upside down, and the pressure is all coming from the mind control syndicate. They're applying all the pressure, not the truth, the real truth activists, not the my freedom activists. I'm talking about people who really know what's going on. We need to apply more pressure, folks, and do that in an unapologetic way.